to the, yes, well, got it. So lovely, welcome back, and thanks for that really classy piece of music, which I'm sure will be reverberating in my head for some days. How lovely it is to see you all, and thank you for all your hard work this morning. We know how much hard work this is. It's such a great opportunity to meet together for the weekend and to reflect on this response, but we know this is quick, and we're just really appreciating your energy and what the ideas and the thoughts that you are bringing. So keep going, because we've got plenty to do over the rest of this afternoon and tomorrow. We're going to take a little break from our thoughts on the government's response for a minute from our own point of view. And we're going to hear from our very fabulous team of investigators from the Children's Parliament Group that have been working alongside the Assembly right back from the beginning. So I'm going to invite and hand over to Katie, who's brought this fabulous team to come and meet with us over some breakout groups a little bit later on. And also Katie's going to introduce a couple of presentations that have been prepared for us. So Katie, are you there? Hi, Katie. Lovely to see you. I saw you messaging earlier, so I knew you'd arrived. And have you got your posse with you?
I believe so. We're just checking in to make sure everyone is here. There are so many more people on this Zoom call than we normally have, so it's a little bit of a minefield to find everyone. But hopefully the children are settling in.
We have good
together.
Kids, if you're out there, young people, don't be intimidated by all this number of people. They've all got pajamas on underneath there. It's all very informal here, so just take it off at home. And over to you, Katie, to introduce the videos.
Great. Well, to be honest, it's really over to the investigators. I'm about to just press play. I believe our tech, Margaret's just arrived, dodgy Wi-Fi over in the Western Isles today. We are just about to press play on a short film that we've made capturing the children's journey over the last, 15 months or so. And also it includes some of the reflections that the children have been having in our most recent call just a few days ago when we reviewed the response initially together. I see Maya's just arriving as well, so we'll let her get settled in. Great. So is the film ready to go? And then we can play that, and then we'll begin our session today.
Fabulous, Katie. That's lovely to see that, and we're going to be speaking to them a little bit later on. But you've actually got another little video to show us.
We do, and this video is for the children, and it's a bit of a surprise. So we're really delighted. People might have noticed in the film, Molly, who's really sad she can't be here today, mentioned that it would be great to have a child-friendly version of the report that came out in December. It is 162 pages. We've done our best as the investigator team to try and get our teeth into it over the last few weeks. However, we have received a video from the Deputy First Minister for the children, outlining some of their reflections on the response to the children specifically. So it is a 6-minute long video, and we don't have time because we want to have lots of space for dialogue. So we're going to play a shortened version of that just now, and then we'll work with the children afterwards and play the longer version to them. But here's
this is a surprise even for them, is it?
Yeah, no one has seen this yet.
First time. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Hopefully, well, I'm sure everyone enjoyed seeing that there from the Deputy First Minister, and nice that the kids get to see it for the first time while they're here with us as well. We're going to now be going into breakout groups for a short opportunity while we've got some of the children here to reflect on what the children have presented, and also have a chance to speak with them and ask a few questions. Just a couple of things to note: because of the small number of children who were actually available to be here today, and because they need to be working with the Children's Parliament staff as well, we've had to combine some of the breakout groups together. So you'll actually, for this next section, be in kind of like a double-sized breakout group, and each group will have about 10 minutes with the children. Some will have the children straight away, so you can just get into reflection. Some will have a little bit of time to think about it, and then the children will join you in about 10 minutes time. just a quick reminder that again, there will be the staff members from the Children's Parliament in with the groups. If one of the children does, become upset or shares sort of any concern, let them deal with it. That's their jobs. That's why they're here. Remember, keeping it simple when we're talking to kids. Not to say that they can't understand, but some of the language we might need to really just think about and be willing to explain if it's not clear what you've been saying. And as always, no photographs, no filming, no recording in the breakout rooms. Okay, let's go. Okay. You can see you all coming back from the breakout rooms now. We just go, and I know many of you would have liked a little bit longer and more opportunity to speak to each other, but unfortunately that's the time we sort of had available this afternoon. But we are just going to spend a little bit of time before the children have to go, where inviting some of the members who've had an opportunity to speak with the children to just give a little bit of reflection back to all of us and to the children themselves about, where hearing from the children is helping them think about and add to what their thinking is in terms of, well, what do we need to do as a response? And we're also going to hear a little bit from the children as well before they go. So I'm going to start with people who sort of our groups 1 and 2, and I think we've got David from that group that was going to do a little bit of feedback.
Yes. We were all incredibly impressed by the kids, and they were just wonderful. Not just their enthusiasm and their passion, but they clearly didn't allow any weasel words from politicians to cloud their judgments. And they were quite explicit in the fact that sometimes the politicians weren't responding in the way that they wanted. And so that was just wonderful.
Okay, thanks, David. It was great to hear. I think we've got Susie, who was going to feedback, I think, from sort of the group that was sort of our group 5 and 6. Great, Susie.
Hi, yeah. So in our group, a couple of our group thought that the children were remarkably positive, and that we admired that, given some of the governmental responses maybe weren't being quite as adequate as they were hoping for. And one of the things that was highlighted was that the time scale of the government's plans to take action and implement some of the goals and calls to action maybe just were insufficient. And that, again, just admiring their optimism and their ambition, and just the fact that they're really focused on the future and tried to not get bogged down on what potential issues could be in place, but really understanding of the government's, the fact that the government, there are certain things they can't do, but at the same time being really quite clear about maybe these things, their timescales need to be stepped up. Just really being really admiring them, admiring their optimism, because I don't know if we're all feeling, some of the adults are feeling as optimistic, but
okay,
it's been really good to hear from them.
And we've got John, who's sort of groups 3 or 4.
I was very taken by the video. I remember seeing something where David Attenborough talked to Greta Thunberg, and actually we've got our own now. We've got our David and Maya. And I think that video is so important because it shows the connection between generations. And it took me back watching it and listening to them. When I was about their age, I learned that a local river was polluted, but it wasn't at one time. And I remember still, as an old man, the pain I felt as a child, knowing that I'd been robbed of something. And that reminded me of what these children are facing. They're facing a climate where they may well be robbed. And I thought that the connection between generations my generation was aware of it, but we continued to live our lives and benefit from the exploitation.
Yeah.
And now they have to pay the price. And I think there's a terrible unfairness in that. It's a generational unfairness. And so it really is important for old and young to cooperate together, the same as was shown in that video with David and Maya, to try to bring change.
John. Thanks, John. Nice sentiments there. So I think we've got a couple of the children who are also going to be feeding back. Nadia, Zach, and Margaret. I don't know who wants to go first. Or do you want to go up together, Nadia? Or...
I'm up for it. Yeah, sure. In our group, we also talked about so the adults asked us what our favorite responses are, and there was one, or like our least favorite, and there was one where there was no tree planting, and that's what one of our investigators were like really inspired by, and they really wanted to do it. But we also came up with the idea that local communities can actually help out instead of the government, and we could do stuff together instead of just the government helping us out. And we were also really focused upon the time limit and how it's not efficient. So that's pretty much the basis of what we did.
That sounds great. And I can see, Margaret, you've got your hand up. Does that mean you want to come in next?
Yes, please. Yours seems a lot more peaceful than what my last breakout room did. I'm planning on entering Parliament and crying for them to do a bit more. And anyone who wants to join in with me, get the banners out and let Katie know, because we need to do it now, soon. Even if it means having to go on a dinghy all the way to the closest point of Edinburgh by boat, I'm doing it because we need to get our voices heard. Sure, they've replied, but they've been very nitty-gritty about what they've done, and they're only doing the things that they're already doing, or that they've only just started doing that are quite easy to do. They're not actually doing the tough, the ones we really want to do, like my Eat for the Planet week. That was being considered, but they've not even got back to me about if they're going to do it or not. So let's just storm Parliament. That's my idea. We're not going to take over or get rid of the government. We're just going to storm it and claim for our rights to be heard. And everyone who agrees, let Katie know, for crying out loud. We've got to do it soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. And Zach, I think we also wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, so in our group, we were talking about when, in a moment in November, we were talking about what gave the confidence to talk with government and MGPs and people from the Parliament. And I said about the boost was with my parents supporting me and teachers and everyone around me, and the other thing that boosted me was knowing that I was making a big change to Scotland's future and the world's future, really.
It's a fantastic thing you guys have all done, and it's amazing to listen to you speak about not only the opportunity you've had, but the confidence boost, and to actually be standing there ready to speak to ministers, speak to Parliament, storm Parliament, and actually do things locally to make change. It's fantastic. I'm just going to hand back to Katie now for just a little bit to finish up before we're going for a break.
Thanks so much, Kayla, and thank you to all the children and all the Assembly members for this really special afternoon together. It's been a long time coming and a lot of hard work's gone into it. As we do come to the end of this process, the children and the Children's Parliament team are creating what we're calling a Children's Parliament Grove, and this is inspired by Ben, Molly and Maya from the Highlands, our investigators, who after COP26, they decided to establish their own forest. We know that one of their big calls to action was a National Tree Planting Day. And so they're taking their own steps to start making that happen. And we want to bring you on board. And so in the post, I gather you may have received an outline of a leaf, and that should be maybe with you just now. Over the next couple of days, we'd really like you to take some time to reflect on the children's contribution to this process, but also your own journey over the last 15 months or so. And just to capture perhaps a key takeaway or a special memory or something that you want to hold on to as an assembly member, whether you're a child or an adult who's been through this process. And if you can capture that, and you can draw, you can write a little story, and if you're willing to share that with us, we'd love to have a picture of your leaf. And what we're going to do is create a digital tree that we can share with everyone in due course. So do share your leafs with us, and we can create the Children's Parliament Grove together. There's an email address and a number for you to send that directly to, or you can contact a member of the design and facilitation team as well. And I'm sure lots of people will be happy to help. But thanks so much.
Yeah. And anyone who didn't get their leaf in the mail, we can arrange to get something to you if that has been missed. So look, thank you very much. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, all the children there. We are going to go for a break now, but till 2:55. But we wanted to take a leaf and learn from the children and the way they hold their meetings. So, you know, we've been a bit jealous. Some of the members have been a bit jealous about the fact that you guys get to have a dance party. So we're going to have a little dance party with you before you go too. Anyone who wants to stay and have a little dance before at the beginning of the break, go for it. If you want to just get away for your break, feel free. But please do stay and have a little dance with the children. Yeah. Hopefully people have had a chance to, grab a drink, stretch, move, at least a little dance at least got us a bit more energized than sitting in the seats. It can be a bit much sitting just all day at Zoom, but it's nice to get a bit of a change. So, yeah, we've got notes in about the rugby now. So I know there are other games on as well, but I know people will be trying to sort of potentially watch some of the other games as well throughout the day. So, let's have no spoilers if we can throughout, so that anyone who is, wanting to watch anything on catch up can do so without the spoilers. All right, I hope we've got everyone back, because now is really where we step back. For the rest of the afternoon, you're going to be spending the vast majority of that time in your breakout groups, able to kind of step back, reflect on all the things that you've been thinking about, heard about last night, heard about this morning, the stuff you've read in the report, the stuff you've heard from the children. Remember, we started off last night with reminding ourselves of the ambition, the statement of ambition that you as the Assembly members created at the end of weekend 6 and 7, that actually, set out what you wanted to see happen. We looked again, last night a bit at the sort of the vision, that vision of if all the kind of recommendations and things that you'd put in place and into the report were imagined to have happened, what might Scotland feel like at that point? We also heard a bit more from Ian about the context and, how some of the context change in terms of both what's happening in Scotland and internationally, and some of the, considerations around urgency. And then this morning, really focusing in again and reminding yourselves again across the range of goals that you established, and, touching in both with some pointers from some of our presenters, but also, your own reading of the report, your own knowledge of what things that we, were potentially pleased that government actually was implementing and moving forward with, and maybe not as far as you might have asked for, but, are they moving in the right direction? And some things that actually they've told you about in their response that weren't necessarily your recommendations, but maybe are going to help achieve some of the bigger goals that you set out. And what we're going to start working on today for the rest of the afternoon is really step back and think about the types of things, the types of statements you want to focus on or cover in the overall statement of response. And this will be going back to government, as we said, and will form the basis of what's already been scheduled for that debate in Parliament on the 24th of February. And we're going to be doing over the rest of the afternoon today and then tomorrow similar process as we did when we created the statement of ambition, that identifying what are the key sort of focus areas, the key things we want to cover, doing a bit of prioritizing around that, and then allocating them back to the groups that have identified them to be able to work up the sections of the statement that we can then jigsaw together like we did with the statement of ambition. And when you're thinking about the types of things that you might want to cover, it could be a whole range of things. You know, it could be big things, big themes, big things like whether the government's proposed actions overall actually, you know, meet the targets, whether actually, you know, the types of targets, whether they are ambitious enough, whether they go far enough. It could be about very specific things that, you know, you might be really pleased that some of the very specific recommendations or actions that or the recommendations you made are being implemented, but at the same time, you know, concerned or disappointed that other things that you thought were really important don't seem to have been addressed quite as well in the current actions proposed by government. But it also could be around some of the, you know, big things about what happens next. This is the final weekend of the Assembly, and it's you know, it's a really unique thing that we've actually been able to come back and have this opportunity to come together and make a sort of official response back. But pretty soon after, you know, this weekend, once we've sort of tidied it all up and, you know, put the reports together and things, then the government's commitment to this assembly as an assembly or as a group, that's when it's done. You know, they've funded this to happen, but at the moment, once we finish here, that is the end of the current commitment they've made to as an assembly, as an official group. So who, you know, how do people want to stay involved? What should government be doing in the future? How should they maybe help you to keep informed of what's going on or keep holding them to account? And whether that needs to be in a way that, you know, there's opportunities, and we'll be talking about these tomorrow afternoon, to build a network yourself that you can actually keep in contact with each other. And as Maya was saying, you know, decide your own action and lead on that, or whether actually there should be something built in from government to be able to update or enable you to stay involved in different ways. Can't say, again, remember in our statement of response, we can tell them what we'd like to see happen, but, you know, it will still ultimately be up to government to make their decisions, but we can put pressure, just as we were getting the encouragement from the children. So that's really what we're going to be doing. And we're going to put you into your breakout rooms now for about an hour. So enough time to really step back, think what are the things that are important, and then start prioritizing what are the most important things that we have to make sure we cover in this response to government. And I'll see you all soon.
Okay, some of you coming back from your breakout groups. Great to see you. Wow, you were working hard. Here comes everybody else. Lovely. I can see you all arriving. Good to have you back from your breakouts. I've only got one word to say, and that is wow. What a brilliant amount of work you were doing there. I could sense your energy from the coming through my computer, coming through my keyboard. I could sense all the work that you were doing there, which is absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for all of that work. We will explain in just a moment what's going to happen with that when we close the meeting, because we're going to pick up all of that again tomorrow. We've got lots of work to do tomorrow. But just for the last half an hour of the meeting, you can do two things, okay? Take a breath. Just put your hands on your head, put your hands on your cheeks, give yourself a little bit of a, oh, yep, I'm awake. I've got half an hour to go. And we're going to do a completely, well, not complete, but different exercise now, because one thing I've got to tell you is tomorrow we do have a couple of guests coming to speak at a panel and answer questions. We've got two fabulous ministers coming, serving government ministers. We've got Patrick Harvie, who's the Minister for Zero Carbon Buildings and Active Travel. And we've also got Richard Lochhead, who is the Minister for Just Transition, Employment and Fair Work. Okay, so these are ministers involved in work that you've been doing and are really relevant to this whole assembly and all of the stuff that you've been talking about. So your task now for the last little sprint is to think about some questions that you would like to put to those ministers. Okay, they're questions really to make the best out of this. The panel is the opportunity to ask them, those ministers, questions that will help you in developing your statement of response. Okay, so that's what they're here to do, to help you shape and develop that as you do further work on your response tomorrow morning. So this is your opportunity to have a little think. Okay, have a think about lots of questions you might want to ask, but each breakout group, we're going to ask you then to identify 3 priority questions, areas that you would like to put to the panel, because we know out of all of those groups, there's going to be lots and lots of questions, and some of you may ask the same questions, so we'll just do some work overnight to combine them to make sure we get a good range of questions from a range of groups. Okay, so your task is take a breath, have a think about questions that you want to put to the ministers tomorrow morning to help you develop your statement of response to government. Okay, so we're going back into breakout groups for about 20 minutes or so to have a think about those questions. And I think we're going to go straight back into your groups. So as I say, deep breath, and let's get thinking again. 3 of your top questions. Off you go.
Okay, so I can see some of our members are starting to return, and the breakout rooms are just getting closed off now. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. You know, you may wonder how I know that you've been doing lots of hard work. It's because we do pop in every so often, both into the rooms, but also into the Jamboards. So I know there's a lot of, just let everyone get back. I know there's a lot of hard work been going on, because we do sometimes sort of drop in and have a look at the work that's going on the Jamboards, and you know, so great. We've got some really good things there that have set us up really well for tomorrow, where we're going to sort of keep working, keep continuing the conversation and building this statement of response. What we're going to do overnight, and this is what I need to just sort of let you know, the work you've done in the previous 2 sessions, so about identifying your questions and about identifying sort of priority areas, things that are going to be really important to cover in our statement of response. We're going to collect all this up overnight and process it. And by process it, so let's talk about the questions for a sec. By process it, I mean, we're going to look at what all the different groups have prioritized. We have the ministers for an hour, which is great. So we should be able to get through quite a lot of questions, definitely at least 1 question per group, hopefully more. But it's highly possible that when we look at it, you know, some of the groups are prioritizing the same questions. So we want to spread it out. We want to make sure that we get that real range of questions. So we'll be identifying back questions for each group and reducing that sort of risk of things being duplicated. But it's not in any way going to be about editing or filtering or not allowing certain types of questions. They're your questions. The ministers are coming to answer them. We're also going to do something similar with the sort of the collective points that you want to prioritize to fill in for the statement of response, the same as we did when we were developing up the statement of ambition, that, you know, groups prioritized what key things they wanted to have included. We then brought them all together and they went back out to different groups, so that it wasn't 3 or 4 groups working on the same topic. so that we actually had that full range of statements. So yeah, the ministers will be with us for an hour in the morning, and we should be able to get through quite a lot of questions, I would hope. I'm just going to, just in this last minute or so, Ruth and Josh have been, dropping in on, your conversations throughout the day, and yeah, over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Kayla. So yeah, just a quick few words from myself and Ruth, just to say thank you so much for everybody's hard work today. I know, particularly this morning, people felt it was very intense, a lot of information to take in, and I think everyone was also really encouraged by the children. And ultimately, I suppose what a lot of this work is about is the future generations and trying to make the best world we can for them. So thank you for the work. It's been so rigorous and detailed and focused, much like the rest of the Climate Assembly in preceding weekends. Certainly for myself and Ruth, over the last 7 weekends, you've helped us as the co-conveners really kind of move the dialogue away from climate change more towards climate emergency. We feel you've been really bold and radical in your goals for the government. So we wish you all the best tomorrow with the opportunity to kind of pose questions to the ministers and really see how we can move this forward beyond the Climate Assembly. So a massive thank you from me, and I'll just pass you over to Ruth.
Brilliant. And just a couple of words from me to say, I guess what I want to say to you at the end of today is, what I have noticed is you have more power than you realise as the Assembly. You're being offered the chance, as you're doing, to respond to the governments, to give feedback to the government on what they have said to you. In addition, I've also picked up from a number of groups that, like the facilitator said earlier this afternoon, you also have the chance to ask that wider question about the process and the ongoing relationship. So we've picked up a real energy across your groups today about an urgency for a long-term systemic change. You've been asking questions such as, what is the mechanism we can use to hold the government to account, such as an annual review and so on. And so I'm just really noticing and wanting to feed that back to you, that I've heard that this morning and again this afternoon, along with all the other detailed responses. And what I'm thinking is, much like the COP process requires world governments to update on their pledges year on year to one another, so too you may be requesting of the Scottish Government an ongoing relationship to hold all of us mutually to account. So that's just a really interesting thing I'm taking away with me this evening. And finally, just to say that having said all that, none of us who are here with you, like Josh and myself, facilitators, stewards, staff, we can't promise that what you request will be granted, but what we can 100% promise, that whatever you come up with tomorrow, we will do everything in our power to take your voice with you to the people who make decisions, to the power brokers, and to make sure that your voice is heard boldly and loudly, with the voice of the young people ringing in our ears, for the long haul for all of us. So thanks so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Ruth and Josh as well. So that's it for today. You've done a lot of work. You've worked really hard. Take a breath, okay? We're going to finish the call in a few minutes. You've done your work for the day, but I just wanted to say the illustrations that Rosie's been working on, they're going to be on the website, and also there's a little bits and bobs in social media. Follow that if you want to, but if you need to take a break, then do. But just be mindful of yourself. This has been a really intense day, some big issues, lots of emotions. Take a moment, all right? Take a moment before you go into the next thing, whatever it is, and just pause, give yourself a bit of energy. Give yourself a bit of a break, a change of heart, even just reflect for a few minutes before you just move on, because it's a lot of stuff you've been doing. All right, so be mindful of yourself and take care of yourself overnight. We're really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's a really important day, some exciting stuff. And just let that anxiety go. Let those worries go in terms of that emotion we've had with today, if you can, or hold it constructively so it doesn't, do you any harm or hurt you, because we want you to come back tomorrow full of energy, full of that positivity. All right. As you're leaving, goodbye, good evening. have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.